Hey guys, AllyZieMage here, and today we are doing another book review because it's been a while. Not because I haven't been reading, but because what I've been reading is super long aside from this, which is what we're reviewing. But the thing that I am currently reading, I'm on book 6 of, and there's 17. That's sort of truth. Eventually there will be a review for that. Eventually. But today we're doing Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. I only have 2 of the books of the trilogy here, because the other one is at my apartment in Worcester. Guess which 2 I read while not in Worcester? If you said these 2, you're correct. So the trilogy goes, Mistborn, Will of Ascension, Hero of Ages, and I believe he started writing these before he worked on Wheel of Time, which is important to keep in mind. Also, if you didn't know, Brandon Sanderson, I first came across because I read Wheel of Time, a series originally started by Robert Jordan, who then died, and then the last 3 or 4 books were then completed by Brandon Sanderson, and he wrapped up the series really well. It showed his credibility as an author. 1, they chose him for that project. 2, he did a fantastic job in my opinion. But, as I said, from reading the writing, I think he did Wheel of Time after the first Mistborn novel, because I could tell a difference in his writing. I felt like his writing was better in Wheel of Time. That could be because there was already a writing style set up that he was supposed to try and follow, and I like Robert Jordan's writing, obviously, and that's what he was trying to mimic in that series. And it also could just be the difference of story types. These are obviously more of a young adult novel. I'm not saying that they're strictly young adult, that there is an enjoyment for older people, even if, like, they're not interested in other young adult content. It's a really well done series. I'm not trying to bash it right now, but that could also be a difference. It's also set up differently, there's different structures, blah blah blah. So, I could be wrong saying that this was earlier writing, but there's just some things in here that make me feel like it was before he got taken on for that project, but these might have been the reason why he was taken on to it. Now, enough with Wheel of Time. Also, there's a link up on that side going to my Wheel of Time review that I probably need to update because that one's pretty bad. But anyways, Mistborn. So, these videos are always without spoilers, so keep that in mind. The first edition, so this is my second time recording this because my mic wasn't recognized in the first one, I had no audio, but that one did contain a minor spoiler. I'm going to try and keep it out of this one. So yeah, let's get started. Hero of Ages / Mistborn trilogy. Oh, where do I start? So everything that I'm going to say is without spoilers. It's just going to be a nice summary of what the world is like. So it's in a place called the Final Empire. It is ruled by a dictator, and this dictator is basically seen as a god. He's lived for 1,000 years. And there's this prophecy that happens every 1,000 years that he fulfilled 1,000 years ago. So, what happens is that the person in question in the prophecy is named as the Hero of Ages. People think that a new Hero of Ages is coming up, or that there should be a new Hero of Ages, that maybe the past one wasn't exactly the good one, blah 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 blah. Prophecy basically comes down to the Hero of Ages goes to the Well of Ascension, and either takes the power for themselves and destroys the world, or releases the power. And that's going to not destroy the world, make everything happy dandy. And this world is a world without the color green. Now, that doesn't mean the color green doesn't exist. It just means all the plants are brown. And there's a bunch of volcanoes that spew ash everywhere. They're called the Ash Mounts, fun fact. And in this world, there's also type of magic. 2 types of magic, actually. One of those, though, is kind of... It's not a spoiler that it's there, but it's explained kind of as a surprise type of thing in the first book, not too far in. But I'm not going to spoil it here. I'm going to tell you about the first form of magic, though, which is allomancy, which is where the term Mistborn comes from, and Mistine, and Mistwraiths. That's another thing. Mistwraith is basically a blobless creature that is another creature that inhabits this world. That's all you need to know. Anything beyond that's major spoiler. So, the Mistborn is a person who can use all of Allymancy, while a Mistborn is a person who can only use one form of Allymancy. What is Allymancy? The magic of metals. When I first read this and saw that magic of metals was a thing, I thought it was steampunk. It is not. But that doesn't mean that's not good. I just personally didn't want a Industrial Revolution steampunk type of novel, and made me really happy when I realized that's not what I was getting. So I wasn't disappointed. But Allymancy comes down to push and pull. I'm going to talk about 4 elements. They're common, they're well known, it's not a spoiler. The elements in question are iron, steel, pewter, and tin. So what a Mistborn or a Mistborn can do is ingest these metals and then do magic from them. And this magic is done in a push or a pull type of motion. For steel and iron, it's steel push and iron pull, I want to say, is that there is an object of metal somewhere around the Mistborn or Mistborn. We're just going to say Mistborn because it's easier and they can use all of these. There's a type of metal around the Mistborn, and they see it, they burn steel, and they can push off of it? They can push off of it. So let's say that there's a coin directly beneath them on the ground, they push off of it, and it sends them straight up. However, if it was something... So if the coin was like in front of them, in the air, and they pushed on it, the coin would go flying because the coin weighs much less than them. But let's say that there was like a safe that weighed 2 tons in front of them, and they pushed on that, they would go flying backwards because the safe weighs more. But if they're propped against a really large building and then pushed on it, that's physics I don't want to get into because that requires me to do math. But let's say that there was a piece of metal in front of them that weighed 150 pounds and they weighed 130 pounds, and they pushed against the building like they had a building behind them and then pushed on that. The thing that weighed 150 pounds would then go that way. Slowly, but surely. These metals are divided up into different categories. So an iron pull is the opposite of a steel push. You can pull an object of metal to you. If the metal is larger and heavier than you, if you pull on it, it'll bring you closer to it instead of pulling it towards you. So an iron nail, for example, if you iron pulled on it, would bring it to you, but if it was like an iron door and you pulled on that, you'd go to the door. Now pewter and tin are more about the body instead of the external world, and there's ones for emotions and things like that, and dealing with Allymancy, and there's a lot of different types of metals. And so pewter and tin, what they do is on the body itself, pewter hardens you, so like it makes your muscles tougher, you can run for longer, you can run faster, it makes your bones harder, you can fall or take hits without getting injured or injured less. And tin enhances your senses. So instead of like hardening your body, you harden your senses. If you're in a dark place and you burn tin, you can see better in the dark. You do still need a little bit of light to help with that. You can't see in pitch dark. You can hear better, so let's say that you couldn't normally hear someone walking 3 floors above you. Burn tin, guess what? You can hear them walking 3 floors above you now. So that's a not so quick rundown of magic in this world. And so, basing off of this, the books just kind of go through trying to solve this prophecy and turn the world back into a place that maybe once had flowers and green plants and not spewing volcanoes all the time. And the writing is so well done. Like, he throws you for so many twists. I didn't expect a lot of them. There was definitely clues leading up to them. There's definitely a lot of red herrings. And if you actually paid attention and tried to puzzle it out and maybe not even took notes, but kept like a good mental note of everything, you probably could see some of the surprises that came your way. Some of them, I would applaud you heavily if you figured it out in advance. But they're not surprises that throw you for a loop that you go, oh, I probably need to go read the first book again to see where that came into play. They're set up so that when it happens, you're like, I should have known. Like, you can remember exactly where probably not all, but you can remember where a number of the setups for it were. They're not like these obscure little things that he pulled out and were like, yes, I can use this. It's like, intentionally there from the beginning. Hey, look at this. Now remember it 3 books from now. but it's big and easy to remember, not tiny and hard to remember and easy to forget. So that's really good with his writing in that standpoint of just plot, and then his character development is fantastic, man. Like, you have this team of people in the first book, not gonna say who or what or who dies or if anyone dies. That's not what this is about. What this is about is that you would think only 2 of them are a main character and that you actually have to pay attention to, and yeah, the others are important, they do important things, but they're side characters. It's like, yeah, if they have a little bit of development, I'd be happy. No! These guys have, like, their own character arc of what they go through and what they had to experience and how they had to change based on these things. And there's consequences if they don't change. Because in books like this, obviously, it's a dystopian society trying to make it a utopia. There's going to be change. There's going to be madness. That's just given in a series like that. That's not a spoiler. That's just, you should expect it if you're going to read something like this. Oh, I shook my camera. But the point is that these characters could have had so much less development, and some of them don't develop, but not because the writer can't do it. It's showing, like, that still shows a purpose of, hey, you need a change or there's consequence. It's showing that change is good. And I don't know, I felt like everyone was super well developed. I don't think that there was any characters that I looked at and went, wish I saw some difference there. Shucks, man. It was always just like, I like how this is going. It wasn't like obscure developments that you didn't believe, but was needed for the plot purpose. It was like relevant things. Relevant to that character as well, and not always to the plot. Like, I can think of a couple of characters who developed in ways that, yes, they needed to develop like that to push the plot, to make this ending happen, to make this world into what it became. But there's also characters who developed in a way that they didn't need to. The series would have been perfectly fine, everything still would have happened how it happened, even if they hadn't developed like that. And the fact that he put that in and meshed it so well into the world and the plot so that it still seemed meaningful and not just a useless fluff of words is brilliant. He does have a way with writing, and while I still agree that the first book is definitely not the worst content-wise, but like, it didn't have as eloquent prose, the writing was a little different, the style wasn't as evolved. It got better, and if that's the only bad thing that I can say about the series, then well done, Sanderson. Currently, that is the only bad thing that I can say, except for, wow, you tore my heartstrings. You're not even playing them, you just ripped them out and tossed them on the ground and said, have fun, kiddo, this is adulthood. So, it'll throw you for a ride, but it's a great ride. And that concludes this book review. 9 out of 10 would recommend. It's shorter than Wheel of Time. It's pretty damn good. I blew it 5 pretty fast. And see, like, they look like big books like this, but the writing is larger. It is larger than some of the other books that I read that are, like, that thick, and the writing is a little smaller, I think. Maybe it's not. Yeah, they look kind of the same. But they're smaller than a lot of the books I read, so I was like, oh yeah, this is a nice break. Thanks. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's a little longer than my other book reviews, I think. Eventually, sometime this summer, hopefully I'll have another Wheel of Time book review going up. Maybe towards the end of summer, because I am wanting to reread those. Talking about in this video, because co-author, it's relevant. Sword of Truth will be going up hopefully by the end of the summer. I still have 10 books in this series to read, but all I'm doing is working at Kohl's, and that does not take up much time of my life anyways. Hope you have yourself a magical day, and I shall see you next time. Bye.